When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: Forfeit. User: 26lander. Posted May 26, 1996.
America is a country defined by its stories, the ones we tell and the ones we don't. The story of my hometown isn't one you'll hear all that often, even though it's American to its core. When progress mandated that a tunnel be bored through the mountain that loomed over us, that's exactly what they did. I'd like to say that the project was done with good old-fashioned Appalachian gumption and know-how, but that's not what happened. Instead, a corporation with no responsibility to anyone except its shareholders greased the wheels of progress with human blood, using near-slave labor to accomplish a truly great engineering feat at the cost of hundreds, possibly even thousands of lives. Some of those people who were sacrificed to make the tunnel possible are still here among us, or at least their spirits are. Anger binds them, and if there's one thing I've learned growing up here, anger curdles the soul. When you drill into rock, especially when you dry drill, you stir up a lot of dust. That dust is made up of different components, but arguably the most dangerous one is silica. It's a jagged little particle, and its sharp edges abrade your throat, nose, and lungs. When the tunnel above my town was drilled, they discovered silica at an unprecedented concentration. Because this was technically tunnel drilling and not mining, the safety regulations that mining unions had fought to put into place didn't apply. Workers were sent into the tunnel immediately after blasting when the silica dust was so thick it sandblasted their skin. Most weren't given respirators. Black lung, a scarring and inflammation of the airway common to coal miners, usually takes decades to manifest. The workers who drilled our tunnel developed a similar terminal lung illness, silicosis, in only 12 to 18 months. Because most of them were poor, black, or immigrants, the town turned a blind eye. Wet drilling was slower, but it could have stopped all of this, or at least mitigated it to a large degree. There was, however, a financial incentive to finish ahead of schedule, so those men's lives were forfeit. Because the corporation responsible for this atrocity worked hard to cover its tracks, there's no accurate count of the total number of souls lost during construction or in the months and years afterward from the lingering effects of silicosis. We do know there are mass graves where men were stacked like cordwood before being abandoned to the earth. This would be a cruel fate for a feral animal, but for men who had come north with the promise of jobs, who had left behind families who might live the rest of their days thinking they'd been abandoned by those who loved them, it was an injustice beyond description, one that transgressed not only the laws of the living, but those of the dead. I say this because sometimes they come back. It's been 60 years since the tunnel's construction was completed, and ever since then, people in town have spoken in hushed tones about the lights on the mountain. The furious dead, it's believed, wander the trails above, their rage forever tethering them to the sites of their death on paths traced by their lanterns. A few have the power to go further, revenants who, on the nights where the veil between worlds is thin, walk the streets looking to exact revenge. You feel them before you hear them, it's said. A prickling sensation at the back of your neck, as if spiders were scrabbling to break through your skin. Some they take. Some they mutilate almost beyond recognition. Always descendants of the original residents. Those who knew of the corporation's crimes and benefited, indirectly or otherwise, from that inaction. The mutilations are grotesque in the extreme, so much so that I won't even describe them here. You know it's happened when you're heading to the plant in the morning and stretches of road are cordoned off for blocks, but no construction is visible. Even once the bodies have been collected and removed, the rust-colored stains on the asphalt remain as a testament to those who know what they are looking at. No one moves here anymore, and no one leaves. So the secret stays safe, stays hidden, festers. I don't begrudge the spirits their revenge. What was done to them was inexcusable, and if it was me or my kin who were sacrificed in this way to feed the avarice of mediocre men, I would do the same. I would cling to this world with my fingertips and extract the life from every single person responsible till Judgment Day comes. As it is, I'm a different kind of damned, a descendant of those who stood by while the crimes were committed, and so I expect one day to hear the knock on my door. I won't fight it. It may be the only thing that lifts this weight on my shoulders, delivering me from a burden I didn't ask for and a life I don't want. And maybe, just maybe, it'll be my death that finally sets them free.
Subject, just keep talking. User, TT000. Posted, May 14th, 1998.
Have you ever dreamed something so intensely you're sad when you wake up and realize it was never real? That's where I'm at today. Last night, I dreamed about my favorite band, a 70s rock trio called Just Keep Talking, getting back together. In their heyday, they sounded like Bruce Springsteen and Janis Ian had a baby that didn't play well with others. They had a huge US hit in 1975 called Exile of the Heart, which everybody knows, then a couple other songs like Together Again and Micronesia that didn't chart in the US but did big numbers overseas. The band was made up of 2 women and a man, Sherry V, Cherry K, and Big Jim Rollins, plus a couple of session players depending on the record. Their hot streak ended in 1982 with their album Honey Bell. It wasn't that the album tanked, far from it. The record was heavily influenced by the LA punk scene. Guys like X and Social Distortion, and Micronesia was a minor hit off the back of that sound. It was a simple 3-chord number with a basic chorus, but it managed to connect with their core audience who'd been around since Exile, as well as the punk kids. Who needs ya? Who needs ya? I'd rather be in Micronesia. From what I gather, it was relationship stuff that torpedoed them. Big Jim and Sherry started hooking up, and Cherry was fine with it. Then the 2 split, and things were still copacetic. It was when Jim started hooking up with Cherry and freezing out Sherry that it got ugly. When she'd finally had enough, she hit the self-destruct button. The deal with their label had been all of us or none of us, so Honeybell went gold and Just Keep Talking was no more. Hopeless romantic that I am, hearing Exile of the Heart was like taking some kind of drug specially formulated just for me. Baby, you always said I was crazy, and we both know that it's true, but I've never been so crazy as I've been without you. In case you change your mind, I've saved you a seat at the bar, your outpatient expatriate and his Exile of the Heart. In the dream, the reunion was going to take place in a little town in Pennsylvania at a music festival. I remember a yellow stage being constructed in the town square, small brick buildings lining the streets on either side. Wooden chairs, like you'd find in a school, were lined up in front, waiting for the crowds who were so eager to hear their favorite band back together again. Except, it didn't happen. Jim and Cherry had separated a few years after the band split, but putting all three of them back together in the same space, it was obvious time hadn't healed any wounds. They started connecting, the strength of their dynamic again pushing Sherry away, keeping her at arm's length. She was furious, but more than anything, she was hurt. I heard her call them both motherfuckers before storming out of the coffee shop that was serving as the makeshift green room. That was the point when I woke up to the first rays of morning streaming between the slats of my bedroom blinds. After getting my bearings, it dawned on me that the whole reunion had been a figment of my imagination. I had to deal with the disappointment of my favorite band's first gig in 20 years falling apart in front of me, followed by the realization it had never been a possibility in the first place. What a kick in the nuts. The clock on my nightstand said it was just about 6 a.m, time to get up for work. With a groan, I heaved myself out of bed and started my morning routine. The whole time, Exile just wouldn't leave my head, and I decided the only solution was to throw it on while my coffee perked. I padded into the den, running my fingers along the spines of my record collection, my prized possession, if I'm honest. So many people tossed out their records when CDs came along, and they're all idiots. Mark my words, LPs will make a comeback. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. Oddly, I couldn't find JKT's Exile album. It wasn't on the shelf or the turntable or anywhere else. Had I lent it to someone? It was possible, but unlikely. Time was short, so I figured the hunt for it could wait until I got home in the evening. Together again would have to do for now. Except I couldn't find it either. Or Honeybell. I racked my brain for a good 5 minutes before the hammer came down. Just Keep Talking had only ever existed in that dream. The whole band, every record, every bit of trivia I'd had stashed away in my head when I woke up this morning, none of it had ever existed in the real world. It was like losing a family member. I know that sounds extreme, but try to see it from my point of view. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and not only did your favorite band not exist, but never had. Every memory of them in your head hadn't been there the night before. It was all a tapestry woven behind your eyes as you slept. I can't play music, let alone write it, so those songs couldn't have come from me, yet I can still hear them floating around my head like ghosts in a haunted house.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.